The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines, the path not taken and the forgotten angle. Listen to the stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to Voice Unbound, a podcast where I bring women on to share their story of, maybe at a point in their life where they lost their voice and they didn't know truly who their identity was and how they've walked through to come back to that. In life as a mother or a wife, somehow we lose our voice. And we slowly gain it back once we realize, hey, wait, I do have a voice to use. So today I want to share with you, Dixie Bagley has joined me. I'm excited to have her on and share her story. So welcome, Dixie.
Thank you, Laura. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, so let's get started. I would love to learn more about you. We live in the same community and we just really met each other, what,
Yeah,
last week, a couple
yeah,
weeks ago? And I'm
yeah.
like, this is ridiculous. But I've followed her. I love her journey and what she does in our community. Our husbands are both pilots. There's
Mhm.
just so many things that, I thought we need to connect. We need to connect. And I finally reached out. And I said, you need to be on my podcast. And she's like, yes. And so I am so glad you're here. So take us back. How did your journey begin?
I mean, it's kind of been, a roller coaster. I'm definitely probably what most people would refer to as chameleon. I'm pretty flexible. I'm not a holy roller, but at the same time, I can't help but think that my God drops me where I'm supposed to be, and I'm a sink or swim type of girl. And so everything in my life has kind of evolved from that. I've not had a plan, so to speak. I've
Mm,
just kind of been like wherever Jesus takes the wheel, and I'm just
right.
going to make the best out of the situation. And a lot of that comes from just my growing up and raising and not having, a mother who planned my life, so to speak, like some
Yeah.
other people. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of been a natural second instinct to me to just not sweat things and to just roll with the punches.
And that takes a lot nowadays, especially. So were
Yeah.
you born here in this community? Is this home base or?
No, it's funny. Rome still does not feel like home. The farm
Mm,
here, this little
yeah.
sanctuary, which where I live, definitely feels like home. But as far as the town itself, it hasn't really been like home. But I was born in Mississippi and raised in Mississippi. I'm born in Laurel, raised in Pearl Jackson area.
I know where that
Um,
is. Yeah.
yeah, in the 70s, which was rough, which a little tense.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't quite conform to necessarily the way of thinking, that
Yeah.
was going on that I was supposed to conform to growing up there. But I was there until I was 12, 13 years old. My mom got married, moved to Georgia, lived in Atlanta until 99, and then bought a building in downtown Rome in 2000, and ended up moving here. And
Mm,
at that point in time in my 20s to kind of work on that building, and then just kind of just ended up here.
yeah. Yeah. Because
Oh,
mom, no,
I'm
was your,
so
what
sorry.
happened? That's okay.
I, oh no, where are we at?
Somebody calling in.
Yeah, see, there we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I had it
Yeah.
on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, I do too, but they still come through.
Yeah.
And it's usually family. Um,
Yep.
so so you said your mom bought a building. So what was the building for? I mean, that's kind of, I mean, maybe this is where some sparks of entrepreneurship started hitting you, or
No, I bought a building in
you bought the
downtown.
building.
Yeah, in downtown Rome.
Okay.
My ex-husband was a real estate attorney, and so we drove through downtown Rome. He was up here doing a closing, and I just fell in love with Broad Street, just the
Oh, yes.
atmosphere and the
Yes.
architecture.
Yes.
And going back a little bit, my mom, when we moved to Atlanta, she was a new home agent for Town Lake Parkway. So she was
Okay.
the agent in all these new subdivisions. So I
Yeah.
sat and watched these homes being built. So it kind of in
Hmm.
the back of my brain kind of sparked a little design,
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
estate spark in me. And so that's kind of probably where the love for real estate just came in. And
So are you a realtor as well?
no, I'm
No,
not, but I
you
have
didn't,
bought and
but you
sold.
have the eye for it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, bought
yeah.
and sold. Yeah.
Yep, a
So
lot of
when
stuff.
were you here in the time where the mall used to be where it was, Riverside,
Yes.
where it got flood? Okay.
Yes, when I first moved to Rome, I was over there in East Rome.
Yeah.
And so the mall, think was maybe in its last couple of years there.
Yeah. I was here too. I can't
Yeah,
believe that. Yeah.
I
We were
know,
here. We lived in
crazy.
Somerville.
Yeah.
and my dad was, going shorter,
Mhm.
and so I was much young, there. I was like, what, in middle school, high school, almost starting, because then we left Somerville and went to Tampa. But I was here for that short period of time. So it's kind of funny how it's circled back and I'm back here,
I
you
know.
know,
I
back in
know.
this place. So
Yeah.
you bought the building. What was the purpose in the building? What was your plans for it?
Well, my intentions were it's blonde on broad now. My intentions were to turn the lower floor into a law office for my ex-husband and
Hmm.
retail store for myself, and then living quarters on the upper two levels.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that downtown. We did a estate sale for a loft there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I could not imagine the space that was up in that building. I was
It's a
like, you're in a
lot.
whole nother world here. This is
Hmm.
crazy. And I was always kind of like the girl, never live in the city type feel, but that had such a cool feel of
Yeah.
being there. Now, I didn't like hearing the noise. It was above the restaurant and you could hear everything. I mean,
Right.
everything.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
if you wanted
Yeah.
to nose in on somebody, you could just sit and listen to the whole conversation. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
This is too weird.
Not a whole lot of privacy.
No, not at all. So that was in your 20s?
Hmm.
And then what took place later into that? You didn't go to school, did you?
No, I did not. Well, I
Yeah.
started Kennesaw
Yeah.
early in my first marriage and then babies, and the intention was to transfer somewhere up here to Rome. So basically, my ex-husband and I ended up moving up here to Rome with the hopes that he would be a better husband because he's
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
from sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But little did I know, he just drove back down to sin.
Mm.
And so the building was a good way to keep me distracted
Yeah.
from him.
Yeah.
So, and it
Yeah.
did. And I had two babies during that time. So, it kept me up here and we ended up buying a house up here so it could be more convenient, not driving back and forth.
Right.
Um, and, for a change in lifestyle, mostly on his end.
Mm.
And so he just kept going back down there. And
Mm.
I was up here. And then just one day I woke up and I was like,
No more.
I think I'm getting a
Yeah.
divorce today. I was like,
Yeah.
today, it was
How
like that
long were you married?
7 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just kind of woke up and I was like, my give a damn was busted. I just did
Hmm.
not like have any emotion about it. I wasn't mad. I wasn't sad.
Right. Right. You just knew.
I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to make butter beans and a pot roast and go file for a divorce today.
That's a saying right there now. I
Yeah.
got to write that one down. Butter beans and a pot roast and go get a divorce.
I did. I made cornbread and then I invited everybody over for dinner that night. And I was like,
Yeah.
hey, guess
Yeah.
what?
I
This
just
is
signed
what's
papers.
happening.
Yeah.
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 And how now
And
you had two girls or a boy and a girl?
a boy and a girl. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So they were what age when all that was happening?
Oh gosh, Chase, my son, had just started kindergarten, and
Mm,
Kennedy. So Kennedy was, they're probably like 4 and 2 at the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I just, there was part of me that kind of felt like maybe I should go back to Atlanta. I mean, that's what my
Yeah.
in-laws wanted. But I just really felt like staying in Rome was the right thing
Mm,
to do
mm.
because I had been spent so much time in my early 20s being Mrs. So
Building.
being
Yeah.
Mrs. So and so and having to be
Yeah.
the wife of an attorney and in
Right.
junior service league and did a lot of
Losing your
political,
identity.
yeah, I did a lot of political fundraisers. I was a chameleon. I was like, you drop me in the spot.
Yeah.
What do you want me to be? And I'll
Right.
adjust and be it. And I did it fine. But after I kind of was during my separation from him and kind of living by myself for a second, I was
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is what it's like to like figure out what kind of music I like.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
without, you know what I mean, having to like
Yeah. Oh,
music
I
for
do.
somebody else, like
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
dumbest things, like getting to wear blue jeans and
Yeah.
flip-flops, which is
Yeah.
something, I mean, it sounds dumb, but in the situation I was in, the social circle I
You
was in
only had to
Atlanta,
look a certain look.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like every day was a Neiman Marcus outfit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was having to be a dressed like a 50-year-old woman when I was in my
Hmm.
20s, and I just didn't
Hmm.
really get to do that kind of fun stuff. And when got up here and kind of had that break for a second, he wanted me to struggle. So he
Yeah.
made sure I didn't get child support or any funds until he absolutely had to pay.
Right.
Everything was foreclosed on, our house up
Yeah.
here, cars, everything. And I bought my little bungalow in East Rome and I didn't have a telephone, I didn't have TV. And there were months where I was negative $200. I mean,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
had enough money to take care of my kids. And every day we would go for a walk through East Rome. We would read a lot of books and just really spent a lot of time together because we didn't have all those luxuries. And
Right.
all of a sudden I was
You
like,
were finding yourself.
yeah. And I was like, I'm not upset about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't
Yeah.
bother me. I was really, I felt happy and at peace. I mean, obviously, I went through a really sad moment of
Yeah.
having to divorce somebody that I,
Right.
never had any intention of.
Right. Right.
But at the same time, it was just very cathartic to go, I was so sad over losing this situation and this relationship. But at the same time, I was like, I didn't really know how miserable I was because all of
Right.
a sudden
So
I was
you were out of
happy
it.
and it
Yeah.
was weird. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
thought I was Miss Atlanta and
Yeah.
this wife and all of this
Yeah.
stuff. And it turned out that I was like,
Mm.
maybe I wasn't. And I just
Yeah.
didn't realize
You
it
were
because
just living a facade. Yeah.
yeah, I was just surrounded in the everyday hustle and bustle of doing things, and you just
Mm-hmm.
don't slow down enough to think about yourself or take time for yourself. And all of a
Right.
sudden, this realization came that I was like, maybe I still am that Southern girl from Mississippi, that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
thought I lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Back to your roots. And
yeah.
that's okay.
Hmm.
It's okay. So
Yeah.
you managed and made it through the divorce.
Hmm.
And so what happened next when you were, what was the path you chose? You had to do something because like you said, money,
Yeah. Yeah.
figuring it all out.
Yeah, I enjoyed spending time with my kids, and I just had this realization that there was so much of their first couple of years because I had a nanny in Atlanta that I missed out on.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I was not going to work unless they were in school. So I just adjusted. I got a job teaching preschool. I've kind of followed them through school, got jobs
Yeah.
substituting for schools. I was a
Yeah.
mentor for Rome City schools, so I had a couple of students that I mentored during that time. And so I really worked around their schedule and
Mm-hmm.
only worked when they were in school because as you
Yeah.
know,
I did that. Mm-hmm.
childcare was really
Oh,
expensive
yeah,
and
you
I
cannot pay
didn't
for that. Mm-mm.
yeah, and I didn't really have that luxury and I didn't really want it. And so I just spent all my time at home with them when they weren't home and then, taught preschool here in Rome
Mm-hmm.
and substituted while they were in school. I met Lee, my husband. I actually moved in next door to him. Met him pretty quickly and we started a relationship pretty quickly. I think that he was the prayer that I've been praying
Mm.
for so long, which again sounds dumb, but I was like, I don't really want
No.
to date anybody, but
Yeah.
I was like, God, if you put somebody in my lap, preferably let them have custody of their own child so that they know my struggles. And,
Yeah.
and I wanted them to have a lot of similarities. And when he kind of first appeared on the scene, I was like, this ain't it.
Mm-mm.
But and just because of my preconceived notions that I,
Yeah.
built in my head, but so he and I started dating pretty quickly, and within like the second date, I knew I was in love
You
with
knew.
him,
Yeah.
and I knew that he was the one, and so he and I were dating and everything, and I slowly started helping him a little bit with his business, his construction business, with his accounting and back end and stuff like that, and I quickly became bored, which I
That's not
do.
my forte. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was fine,
It's
and
okay. Yeah.
yeah, but I was like, I wanted to finish up what I originally went to school for, which was nutrition and personal training. So I got
Okay.
certified with ACE and got my personal training nutrition degree.
Oh,
And wasn't
nice.
really doing anything with it. It was
Yeah.
more so just, just
A
doing
degree.
something for
Yeah.
myself. Yeah, that I
Yeah.
really wanted to do and have in my pocket so that I don't know, sounds dumb. I knew I was worth something, but I wanted
Yeah.
to do something for myself, not because I
Hmm.
had a job, not because somebody was pushing
Right.
me to. I just
Somebody was
wanted to,
telling you had to do it,
yeah, I
or
just
yeah.
wanted my own
Yeah.
achievement. So,
That was my first certification as a life coach. It was for
yeah,
me.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was for me. And I
yeah,
know that. And it was a
yeah,
good experience. And
yeah,
now in my next phase, it's for others.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
So
So
when
that,
you guys met, and so it
mhm,
sounds like Tim and I, we knew day one. I knew
yeah,
as soon as he got out of
yeah,
that car, I'm like, that's my guy. I
yeah,
am going to be with him forever.
yeah.
And 2 weeks later, he's asking me to marry him, and 3 months later, we were married. So
Nice. I
I
love
mean,
that.
it was like, why wait?
I
We
wish we
knew.
didn't. We
Yeah.
dated we dated for 4 years and I think we
Did
were both
you?
yeah, we were both a little scared of,
Yeah.
what because of what we had been through. We both had some pretty bad experiences with ex-spouses and so we were both a
Right.
little hesitant. Plus we lived next door to each other. So you
Yeah.
have to admit that's super convenient. Like
Yeah.
go from his house to my house.
Uh-huh.
Everybody on East Ninth Street was like, "Oh my God, we're so tired of this. Can y'all please just get married?"
Y'all just get married. Why are you doing this? Yeah. And the
Yeah.
kids were good.
Yeah, the kids were great. I think it was a good setup for them because of what I grew up with my mom and her going through. She was single a lot and married a lot, and I felt very, very strongly about being careful about exposing my
Yeah.
children to any relationships and especially exposing them to overnight guests as
Mhm.
men, because my biggest fear
Mhm.
was, should that not work out, you know what I mean? And
Now what? Yeah, they're
my
gone
children,
again.
yeah,
Yeah.
my children are attached. That wasn't fair to them. Wouldn't be fair to his child. And so I really
Mm-mm.
felt strongly about that. So honestly, living next door to each other and being able to have that flexibility to still
Yeah.
eat dinner together every night, but then go back
Yeah.
our separate ways, and
Yeah.
him to spend time playing in the yard with my kids and me to spend time at his house playing in the yard with kids. It was
Yeah.
really kind of the perfect little, I guess, intro
Yeah,
to being a
right. To get the feel
family.
of how things would
Yeah.
feel, but the kids didn't feel like, oh, wait, if he is over there, then that's fine. We're here. Yeah.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
still had our personal space and allowed us to grow and develop. And we still, in our 20s, we still had a lot of growing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
as you know, I
Yeah.
tell everybody now, all the people who work for me who are like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be 30." I'm like, "Y'all, it's
It's
great."
okay. I'm still growing and I'm
Yeah,
62.
yeah.
I'm still learning so
I'm like,
much.
every decade it literally
Uh-huh.
gets
It's a
better.
whole
Like,
nother thing. Yes, it
yeah.
is. I'm like, wow, okay. This is
Uh-huh.
what I've got for me in this era of life. Okay, I'm for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so 4 years and you
Hmm.
got married.
Yeah.
But what were you doing in that time frame? You did help him some. That where did you go after that if you said you were
Hell,
getting bored?
I helped him. I taught preschool, and I did that. I think I taught preschool up until probably right before we got married. And then
Yeah.
after that, I was kind of dabbling and substituting for Rome City schools.
Mm-hmm.
Only the schools my children went to school
You
at.
went
So
to, yeah, yeah, so you
yeah,
could be connected. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that was the main reason. It was just, I feel like it's very important to,
Oh yeah.
as a parent, to be involved,
Mm-hmm.
especially nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
in school. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
unless you're actually in there. You
Nope.
don't really know.
No, you don't.
And so I felt like that was, a very important space for me to be in. And I don't have any regrets about spending my time with my kids. I tell people all the
No,
time, I'm like,
never. I mean, I
I,
was 8 years with my grandkids again.
yeah,
We raised them and I became a bus driver. I
yeah,
saw that'll connect me to the school
yeah.
system, to the kids, knowing what's going on. The oldest did band. I drove the band bus. So I was always involved. And I don't regret that
Hmm.
at all. I
Yeah.
love those
No.
moments that I got to have.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have, I always tell people like, I didn't have as much. I didn't, you know what I mean? Like it was a totally different place in my life.
You had
But,
you. You were
but yeah,
getting
but
you back.
in hindsight, that relationship at Stream that it did with my children and with
Mm,
me
hmm.
to really get to
Stronger.
know, yeah, to get to know myself, to get to know my kids. I mean, we're tight. I mean, we still
Yeah.
talk like that. And
Oh,
I'm
that's
also,
good.
I'm not a hover mom. I told somebody,
Yeah.
just a girlfriend the other day, I said, I view my children now as a luxury, not a
Yeah.
necessity, which is probably
Yeah.
not the norm. I know a lot of parents
No,
feel like
I do.
that, but I'm just like, they're luxury. I
Yeah.
raised them and fostered them to make the best decisions possible. If they
Yeah.
choose not to do that,
That's
that is their problem.
yeah.
But like, at this point, I'm 50 years old, and now I've got these grown kids, and it's a luxury to be able to do fun things with
Yeah.
them and watch them
Yeah.
make good decisions and watch them thrive. But at the same time, I don't have to, go see my child in Portland, Oregon every month to feel
Right.
connected.
Right.
There's
You're connected.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have a
Yeah.
connection that's so strong that nothing could
Mm,
ever take the place of that. And it's
yeah.
because of spending that time with them when it was
I
such a
think
vital
so.
time.
Yeah, they
Hmm.
know where you're at and
Yeah,
they know, yeah, you don't have to worry. And I
yeah,
did that. I tried to monitor and decide things for them in the
yeah,
beginning. And I realized what a stress that was putting on me. I mean, it was
yeah.
wore me out. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This is their life. I have guided
Hmm.
them, done what they can, even next with the grandbabies that I raised.
Right,
Let them go. I'm
right,
here.
and
They know I'm right here. I will talk to them
yeah,
anytime they need to be spoken with on subjects if they ask my opinion or whatever, not
yeah,
offering it before they ask. That
yeah.
was key.
Yeah, and you know as well as I do that just because we tell our children not to do something because
They're
we've
not going to
already
do always
they're
what we say.
we did what we wanted to do. We learned
Yeah,
the hard way. Like
exactly.
if we really wanted to go tempt fate, we did it
Yeah.
anyway.
Yep. Yep. We did
It
it
didn't
anyway.
it did not matter what anybody said. We were
No.
going to figure it out. So,
Yeah. And that's how my parents raised me. I mean, I still ask them. My dad was like, why'd you let me get married at 17? What were you thinking? But they trusted me and they allowed me
Yeah.
to go through my own journey. And so I
Yeah.
think that's so important for our kids so that you
Yes.
have that relationship. Like you say, it's a luxury, it's a blessing to be able to have
Mhm.
that relationship with them
Mhm.
now. So 4 years, let's go past 4 years. And what are
Yeah.
you doing after you get married? Where does that start taking you
Yeah,
into?
I was started like my kids got in middle school playing sports, had a little bit more time for myself. And I do get bored easily. I'm not a very good, I just would probably never be like a sit home, eat bonbons and watch soap operas kind of
Yeah.
girl. I'm just
No,
not.
no,
Um,
no. I am sitting in my office a good bit, but it's creating and doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you're
yeah,
doing something. I mean, but
yeah,
like I'm not the type to have a housekeeper and go shopping with girls. I'm just not that type. So I quickly started working out a lot. I had time for myself and kind of started working out with Scott Hines over at Pro Performance. He found out that I had gotten my certification to be a trainer and he was like, "Why are you not
yeah. Why are you not using
why
that?
are you not doing that?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, I was like, I think I figured out I don't really do well working for other people."
Mm,
And I knew that. I'd figured that out about
me.
myself. I mean, yeah, I mean, even
Yeah.
though teaching preschool, I worked for
Yeah.
somebody, but even when I taught preschool, I was like, "Hey, y'all listen, I'll be here and we can pretend that you're the boss, but like ultimately I'm going to have some say so. Like
Yeah.
that's just the way it's
Yeah.
going to work." And
Yeah.
it did. So Scott, and I talked about it and I said, "I'll come to work here if you realize that I'm probably sometimes going to act like it's my company. That's just what I do." And I was like, "And not get offended." And I was like, "As long as we can be okay with that." And he was, of course, you probably know who he was.
Well, you treat it
He
better,
was
right? I
fine.
mean, you
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
it better. You, if you make it your own, I agree in
yeah,
that. I mean, that's how
yeah.
I would do. And the first job we had, Tim and I have our own company. So when we went and Husqvarna hired us under contract for I don't know how many years, but we sat down with the big corporate, and I knew all these guys. Tim had known them for years, but we sat to have your review and sit down and talk with them and all that, corporate stuff. And as soon as we sat down, I looked them both in the eye and I said, "I'm not corporate."
Yeah.
And I'll do my job and I'll do it well, but I don't need all the this and that and all that, just let me be and
Yeah.
do my thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. And I mean, I did. I managed 15 guys and had them all over the US doing what they had to do, but it was just like, just let me do it. Don't put the
Yeah.
corporate thing on me because I'm
Yeah.
not corporate.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to stand your ground and show them your possibilities. I mean, what you
Hmm.
can do. And they know, well, hey, she means business. So she's gonna
Yeah.
do what she says, and
Yeah.
she's taking it as her own. That's what I want.
Hmm.
So you worked in the gym and did that for how long did you do that?
Gosh, I think I did that for probably about 8 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Met a lot of great people in
That gave you
Rome and
connect with people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being a personal trainer, at that point in time was way different. I mean, especially in
Yeah.
that environment because it was
Yeah.
people who were paying
We're
a lot of
struggling.
money and it was
Yeah.
strictly a personal training facility and to like people I'd always like want to hug somebody then because I'm like I know I just made you want to puke.
Yeah.
I know
I
you're
hated my
feeling real
personal.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Let me give you a hug and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm sweating." I'm like, "I
Yeah.
don't care,
I don't
it's
care.
fine."
Yeah.
But so it was kind of followed along the lines of teaching and doing everything I'd already been
Hmm.
doing, you know what I mean? It
Hmm.
was helping
Yeah.
somebody and being there
Yeah.
for somebody and serving them in a way that helped them. And and I loved it. I mean, it was great. I met so many wonderful people, in Rome that I
Hmm.
had the intimate time with to get to know.
Right. Right. So you have some other businesses, and how in the world did those come about? Like they're
Yeah.
totally kind of different. So
Yeah, it was kind of a rolling stone type of effect. I mean, first the farm came up for sale. And Lee and I at that point with his construction company were kind of looking to maybe purchase some things and remodel
yeah.
some things. We'd
Yeah.
bought a house and we bought our first home together in East Rome, which had been sitting empty forever on the corner of Cooper Drive. And it was a Brady Bunch style ranch, and we remodeled that together, put a second floor on it, made it
Oh,
very
cool.
country French. And so, we kind of we realized we meshed well in doing that together.
Yeah.
His being a builder and a contractor, and my background kind of watching real estate and kind of just having a
Yeah.
love for real estate and rehabbing certain things. And so we did that. And then we started kind of toying around with looking at some other options. And we were at the bank one day and I saw they had a bunch of things, properties that they had, I guess, repoed, and
Acquired, yeah.
yeah, and they had suggested a couple of houses. Ironically, the house they suggested was the house that my ex-husband and I had owned that somebody else had since bought, and
No
like it just
way.
like had got, and I'm
No,
like, this poor house is doomed. Like,
it's doomed. We're not
don't
going
don't
there.
don't move there, okay? Like if you're getting married, like I'm
Yeah,
convinced
single
the house
people
is
only.
bad juju, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
um, but I was like, I don't want to revisit that. Not interested
Mm-mm,
in that. But I was
mm,
flipping through, and they got to the commercial section and saw the farm, which
mm.
was Zion Farm, and I had never really been here. Of course, my husband had. Everybody apparently who was from here knew about it,
Knew
and
about it, yeah,
I was very intrigued, and I really just wanted to look at it. So,
yeah.
I was like, I want to go see this and just go look at it. And we came out here and looked at the barn. And my wheels started spinning that night, and I kind of drew a plan to turn the barn into our house. And I told my husband, I was like, we're buying this. And he was like, you've lost your damn mind. He was like, you were pulling the cha-ching lever
Yeah,
real hard.
yeah,
And it was a big investment for us at that
yeah,
time. I mean,
yeah.
one of the biggest
What
investments
year
we,
was that?
I think that was like in 2007 or 2008.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when the
And
market was
so,
going crazy.
yeah, yeah. And so, after I showed him what my intentions were with the plan, I was like,
Mhm.
you'll be great. I was like, if you're a builder and we turn a barn into a home, like, you know what I mean? That would be
Yeah,
phenomenal for your career.
yeah.
And so saw the drawing and got on board, and we made an offer, and we quickly got outbid
Oh, gee.
by Truett Cathy. So we
Oh,
couldn't, yeah, we couldn't go to bat with that one.
nope.
Um, so we're just like, okay, it wasn't meant to be. That's fine. And then a couple weeks later, they came back to us, and he had backed out because the property was not together as a whole, because
Yeah.
the family had divided it and had
Oh,
different
had they?
banks had different parts, and
Oh, geez.
yeah, and so yeah, and so he when he found that out, he wasn't
He
interested,
didn't want to
and
go through all that. Yeah.
and so they asked us if we still wanted it, and we said sure,
No,
Uh,
yeah.
and so we did it, and really just bought it with the intention of it kind of being our home.
Hmm.
And and Lee was pushing, and we had some people from Berry College saying, "Oh, you should, revive it back to its original horse farm glory," and because, as you know, it was built for the
That's what
equestrian
it was,
for
huh?
the 96 Olympics, and they didn't get that, and then they started horse camps and boarding and summer camps and
Oh,
stuff like that.
okay.
And I wasn't real big on that. I grew up with horses in Mississippi. My aunt breeds horses and dogs, always has, and I kind of felt like,
Nah.
um, that wasn't a very good turnaround on money for
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
for what you're doing, the labor, for the horse that goes with the horses and
Right.
everything. And so we tried that for a second. Had a little bit of overflow from Barry out here while we were remodeling everything and getting the property back in shape. It sat empty for 6 years.
Wow.
So it was very neglected.
Yeah.
And then, Scott Hines, who I was still working as a trainer, we signed up to run a half marathon at Berry. And they were training one day. I was here working at the farm because the farm quickly consumed every bit of my
Yeah.
free
Every bit of
time.
your time. I can
Yeah.
imagine.
And he unfortunately died suddenly while running. Just,
Mm,
fell over and
mm.
died instantly, and his son was going to propose that night at our house, and so he obviously did not. And a couple months later, after the funeral, I just told my husband, I was like, when I was in junior service league in Atlanta, I did a lot of political events, big things,
Yeah.
organization,
Yeah.
a lot of things for my ex-husband for the board of realtors in Cherokee County. And I was like, I'll just throw a wedding. I was like, it'll be
Yeah.
fine, it's
Yeah.
fine,
No
I
big
got
deal.
it. Fine.
I can do
And so,
this. Yeah.
yeah, and so I did, and we had that wedding, and after that, everybody was like, "You should do weddings," and I was hell bent that I did not want to do weddings. I did not enjoy my first wedding, which was a big Atlanta wedding. My
Mm.
second wedding was very minimal and small, and I did enjoy that, but even that was somewhat pushing it.
Stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just did not like the what the wedding industry was being represented as at that point in
Yeah.
time. You
Yeah.
had like Bridezillas, Gypsy Bride, all that
Yeah.
stuff on TV,
Yeah.
and I did not like that.
Mm-mm.
I did not want to be a part of that.
Associated with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so people kept begging me. I finally got tired of people begging me, went to the forum and did the wedding show, which was terrible.
Mm.
Had no interest. I just called the place the farm. Not a whole lot of thought there. Um,
Big deal.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
really think because I just really didn't, like,
You
think it
didn't feel
would
like your heart
stick.
was in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and within about 2 or 3 months after that wedding show, I just randomly started getting phone calls,
Mm.
from people for weddings, and I booked 2 weddings, and then after those 2 weddings, it was like, "Katie, bar the
Game
door."
on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was nonstop, and then I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I could do one every single weekend next year," and
Oh gosh.
my dumb ass did, little did I know that, like, my son would need to go do college trips that year, you know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
just did
Oh
not
yeah, my
have.
kids. What about my kids?
Yeah, I was like, that was all fun and games until it actually happened.
Yeah.
And after that, it just kind of like spun, into
Evolved.
everything. Yeah, to the bakery, to a wedding planning business. Of course, my husband has his own businesses, but from my end in the wedding industry, it just quickly spun out of, not out of control, but just
But very
became,
fast.
yeah,
It
way
evolved.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, way bigger, which was a blessing because the education that I had to force myself to get.
Yes, right,
I
right. We
mean,
do that when we're that kind of a
yeah.
person because I've thrown myself into things like I know what to do, but really don't. And I'm gonna figure this out. Just you're gonna do it with me.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
gonna
and
learn
then
from it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
balancing, I, had gotten uterine cancer through all
Mm,
that, had to have that taken care of, like, in between weddings. My,
mm.
children had the accidents and things that happen with kids, that come up, and
All life. Yeah.
college visits and all of the stuff and balancing it all out and just like the whirlwind, of
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
happening. And but at the same time, I mean, it was rapid fire learning about myself, about the business, about people. I mean, when you spend every weekend with 250 people,
Yeah.
you get an
You
education.
gotta learn how to deal with people. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you better like them no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. Grin and
Yeah.
bear it.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that's I mean the same thing with estate sales. I mean, we were dealing with people and
Hmm.
the people that we're selling the stuff for. You would
Yes.
not believe how their mind is through that. And it's hard. It's a
Yeah.
very hard time for them. And
Yes.
so we deal with a lot of issues. And this weekend one was one for the books we had to deal with. And we were like, oh my, if that ever happens again. But I felt like I
Hmm.
handled it well, but I just had to throw into the coaching mode. I had to with her because I didn't know how else to get her to calm down and realize what we were doing was for her and we were
Yeah.
not going against her and all the things. But
Yeah.
it turned out fine. We had a great sale for her. I hope she's pleased. We just kind of hurried and nipped that one in the bud at the end. We usually take it a couple of days later and we'll try to finish the sale for them if there's things left. And we were just like, no, we're done. We're done Sunday night.
Yeah.
We're going to count the money, hand it to her, and we're done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we did. And it was like, boom, out of here. But
Yeah.
you're dealing with people, and especially now where there's so many under such stress, of
Hmm.
how our world is. And so, especially at weddings, it's stressful. The holidays are
Yeah.
stressful. There's all the things that start playing in when you have to deal with people.
Hmm.
How did you come up with, I mean, did you create your bakery or was that something that became available as well?
Yeah, no, became available. It was a donut shop, had a lot of history here in Rome. I think
Oh, wow.
I don't know what it was called
Yeah.
prior. I know it was over on Spiderweb Drive. It's like maybe the Donut Shack or something like that. I
Yeah.
always hear
Yeah.
tales about an old man in
Yeah.
there with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth and people going to
That's
get
too
donuts.
funny. Yeah. You
Yes.
want a donut? Here's a puff of cigarette, too. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, and then Hannah bought it. And Hannah had it for a long time, Hannah's Bakery, and then she kind of went through a rough spot in her life and
mm,
came to me for some help. And I was trying my best to help her with marriage advice, business advice, all the things, and it just wasn't sticking. She had a lot going on, and I
mm,
think some things that she was dealing with that were a little bit harder for her to
deeper.
manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the logistical part of it, of like, here's the bottom line of how you do this, she just couldn't stick with it. And we had made a financial contribution to her during her divorce to help her with her bakery. And it just, unfortunately, her demons got in the way to such a
Mm,
point. And I didn't really, at that point in time, my husband and I didn't want to have anything to do with it. You know what I mean? We were
yeah.
just trying to help somebody else and
Right. Right.
keep a staple in Rome, that had
Right.
been here for a
Right.
long time. And that was kind of our philanthropy, good doing, of, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, being able to help
Yeah.
somebody. We didn't need any recognition or anything like
Nope.
that
Just
for
do
it.
it. Yeah.
And it just became very clear that she was not going to be able to, one, pay back that money
Right.
ever, because she wasn't going to be able to change what was
Yeah.
going on personally in
Yeah.
her life and hindering her from making some decisions that she just
Mm,
needed to do. And so There just it came to push came to shove. My husband and I were about to go to New Zealand for like a month, and
Oh gosh.
the stress and the phone calls that I was getting because people were rapidly figuring out that we had something to do with it, and so they'd call us and complain, or you know what I mean. And
Mm.
we didn't own
Yeah.
it, but we didn't
Yeah.
own it.
No.
Um, but I was getting so many phone calls and everything like that, and people figuring that out. And I just told my husband, I was like, we cannot go to New Zealand with this undone. Like we
Yeah.
have to figure something out. Like
Yeah.
something's got to give. It's got to shut down. We got to get our money out. Like whatever, we got to figure something
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And we sat down and had a talk with her, and she was ready to,
To get out of it.
she was ready to step out of it. She wasn't ready, but she knew she had a lot
Yeah.
going
She
on.
didn't have a whole lot of choice. Mm.
Yeah, and so, we talked about all the different ways it could work, and ultimately she decided that just stepping out completely and getting some money for herself so that she could kind of step back and get herself do
Mhm.
what I had to do so long
Mhm.
ago, step
Yeah.
back and
Yeah. Find herself
reframe,
again.
yeah, and
Yeah.
reframe everything. And so that's what we did. And quickly after we did that, I kind of decided I'd take the old Waffle House, which I drove by a bazillion times, and
Aw,
and it spoke to me because it was in the center of town. I hate seeing abandoned real
I
estate.
do
And I
too.
and
I
I
can't
hate the
stand it.
and I
I
hate the
can't
fact,
stand it.
yeah, and I hate the waste of it just being torn
Mhm.
down to build something. And
Mm.
I know that these people who are tearing this down, these big companies, they have the money, whatever.
Right.
But
Right. The old.
I love to polish a turd. I love to like
Yeah.
take it and rework it and figure out a way. And so I would lay awake at night and think of all the different ways that I could unwaffle a Waffle House. And told my husband, I was like, let's just reach out to and find the guy that owns
Mm.
the Waffle House and just see, if it's a possibility, and see, because it had everything we
Had it
needed. It
all
was
there.
right there in the center of town. It had the jukebox area, which I could have made a drive through, and I could really see it all coming together
Yeah.
to be a perfect, opportunity for us to expand that bakery. And so we
Mm.
called the guy who owned it, Don Lewis, great man, Waffle House loyalty.
Yeah.
And the day we called him, he's like, well, come up here to Chattanooga and meet me. And we flew into
Oh,
Chattanooga and had, coffee with him in the Chattanooga airport. And but at the end of the day, we had a deal for the Waffle House. And
wow.
and
That's so
so
fast.
it started, yeah, and it's been great. I
What
mean,
year was that?
I think we just had 10 years on that, or 10 or
Wow,
11
already.
years. Yeah,
See, we've been 13 years here this month. I
yeah,
mean, well,
yeah.
September. I can't believe I've been here this long back
I
in
know.
Rome.
I know. It's crazy.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I used to go through I haven't been in a while, but I've gone through Sweet Bar when I was driving the school bus.
Yeah,
Like that night before, I'd go and pick up sweets and stuff for us to sit at the school, and we'd all half them. I'd share them with all the girls while we're sitting
yeah,
there waiting for the students over at the college. And
yeah.
it was so good. It's so good. Yeah, and it does like
I'm
I can't do
glad.
this every day because we're not gonna be able to walk out of here. It
Oh, I
was
know.
delicious. Yeah. I need to get donuts for Tim. He loves good homemade donuts, fresh, good stuff. And I've heard they're really good.
They are hand rolled homemade donuts. Everybody
Mm.
gets so mad. Like people come at, 2 o'clock and they're like, where are the fritters? I'm like, we're sold out. Why? Because they're real.
Yeah. There's
We
no,
sell out.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny every now and
We
then
make a
somebody,
batch a day or so many
yeah,
a day.
and
Yeah.
every now and then we'll get like a disgruntled, I love a keyboard. I love a good keyboard warrior.
Yeah.
But we'll get one of those people that's like, I came in a 1 star, I came and got a donut and it was old and blah blah. And I'm like, there's never anything old. I have news for you. Like we are
Never.
the old
Yeah.
commercial, time to make the donuts. Francisco is in there at 12
Yeah.
o'clock, rolling dough and prepping dough. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it's one of the only places, and I tell people, I'm like, I don't care. You can like Krispy Kreme and you can like
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts,
Yeah.
but our donuts are the only hand rolled real donuts in Rome.
Homemade.
Mhm.
Wow. And is
So
that every donut or just a
every
certain
donut,
one? Every donut.
every donut, yeah,
Wow.
every donut.
That's
But
time.
for the most part, everything in our bakery, there's very few things that we order pre-done. I
Really.
mean, our macarons, I get those. I order
Yeah.
those from a company because those are
Yeah.
time
They're
consuming.
really good.
We
Yeah.
don't have the space, but I order those from a company that only does those out of
Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
But and I'd get those. They're seasonal and
Yeah.
shipped, so they're
Yeah.
not a long term. I mean, but really, everything we get is made in
It's
there. We
made.
don't really have a whole lot of stuff that comes in pre-made.
That's awesome.
I mean, even our pies and stuff like that, I'll,
Yeah.
come Christmas time, I've got a big oven here at the house, and Christmas and Thanksgiving, I'll be in here, cooking 8 pies at one time and boxing them up and taking them to the
And
bakery
taking
because
them back to the
we've,
store.
yeah, because we've already outgrown our space there, especially
Oh,
during holiday season. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Our capacity to bake and decorate,
Yeah,
in
you
that
don't have
Waffle
a lot of
House.
room for it.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Do you find it struggling to have workers? I know that seems to be such an issue.
yeah, I honestly have probably gone through 100 people at the
Isn't that
bakery, and
crazy?
and probably at the farm over the years, probably 50 people.
Mm,
You got to do what you got to do. It takes a
yeah.
lot, and people, it's hard to find people. It's hard, it's in this area where we
Yeah.
are, it's definitely hard to find qualified people
Yes.
for things like specifically like baking or
Mm-hmm.
weddings. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
to find that. So I've realized that you have to be willing to look at the good in someone, regardless of
Right.
whether they're
Right.
qualified, and see if you can pour into
At
them.
least teachable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if they
Be
can
open.
yeah, and if they
Mm-hmm.
can receive it, and I'm totally open. I tell people I'm 100% open to teach somebody
Yeah.
something.
A small
But they,
test. This is what you're
yeah,
gonna do here.
yeah, but they've got to
And
be
I'll
willing.
say,
They've got to be
yeah.
willing to learn it,
Yeah.
and everything. But it's definitely a little harder, in an area like this to find qualified people. So I can,
I think it's all over because I hear it all the time with different people, that we work with and all
yeah,
over the country. And they just, if I could just get somebody to stay, they
yeah,
come, they start learning the skill, and then they're not there, or they don't even show up, So it's
yeah,
like, that's very tough because you're running a
yeah,
business and you need the people to run the business. So,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
getting them to stick.
I've realized, over the years that you have to pay a little bit more, and
Yeah.
that it's okay, but you have to treat them a little bit like family, and you have to
Hmm.
love them. So many people in
Hmm.
the service industry kind
Don't
of
love them where they are. No.
yeah, and they don't get respected and stuff like that. And so I
Mm.
tell everybody, I'm like, I need all of my girls at the bakery to be my right hand.
Yeah.
Because I'm over here on the left side trying to do everything and
Yeah.
bring in
The
income
business
and,
part
and
of it. Yeah.
advertise and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I want y'all to have jobs. I don't want to go roll donuts. I
No.
don't want to
Yeah.
make cakes. I don't, you know what I mean?
No.
I can if push comes to shove and we're short. Absolutely. I'll be in there doing that,
Yeah.
but that's not where I need to be. And I'm like, so
Yeah.
I need you to be over here and do this for me and for yourself so that I can keep paying you. You keep having a job and
Yeah.
supporting your family. And I'm over here bringing it in. I
Yeah.
joke and say my milkshakes bring all the boys to the yard.
Yeah.
I'm the white stuff in the cookie that makes everything stick together.
Yeah.
And so I'm very honest with them and say, listen, I
That's
know
good.
that you may think that I'm just at home eating bonbons and watching Young and Restless, but I'm not. And if you ever want to come
And
and
spend a
take
day
a
with
day,
me, a day in my life. Yeah.
yeah, or a day with Lee. Or if you
Yeah.
don't think you're making enough money and you have an off day and you want to come to the farm or to the hangar
Hmm.
or to Lee's office, or we can find something for you
Now, are
to
you still
do.
doing
So
things at the hangar?
yeah,
Yeah.
not as much. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a hard thing because people don't quite realize that the common sense part of that is that there is a live runway out there. You cannot get in it, and I cannot stop a plane from going by. Okay.
Borders, people, borders. We have to stop here. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yes,
could see that. But it's such a fun place to
it is.
have parties.
It's great.
I
So,
have
I
my
mean,
granddaughter's 13th birthday there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we
And
love it. It's
so fun.
fun. We do a lot of political stuff there. I get lots of,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
they
think,
like that there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Trump's used it.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Kemp's used it. Herschel Walker,
Yeah.
I mean, so that's always kind of cool. You meet lots of great
Yeah.
people there. We've
Oh,
done
yeah.
a lot of corporate stuff there.
Yeah.
And so it's been great for that. We've done some photo shoots and then smaller parties, but the
Yeah.
whole doing weddings there is a little difficult, just because, if a
Yeah.
plane comes by, it's coming by.
Yeah.
They're not going to be like, oh, wait a minute,
We
your
got
wedding's
something.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not gonna
it's
work.
fine. Yeah, yeah,
Not gonna
yeah.
work.
Mhm.
So with all the things that you've got your hands in, and I love that you say that you're like a chameleon and you just do and flow.
Yeah,
Um, what could you advise someone in that? Because I've always felt like everything's figure outable,
yeah. I think so too.
and when there's an obstacle in the way, well, let's work on finding a solution
Yes,
instead of staying in the obstacle and complaining and worrying and how it's going to happen. Let's go towards a solution that's going to solve the obstacle, may not
Mhm.
complete it, because we may not always figure all of it out, but we will get us moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, what is your biggest thing that you tell other entrepreneurs in this that, how do you handle it?
I think without, I hate this word, without labeling me as an opportunist, I think you look for opportunity in everything. Look for the
Hmm.
good, look for the way to make a positive situation out of something. I mean,
Hmm.
if I had not been forced to take my whole life from the moment, that I was probably 7 years old going forward to choose to look at the way out as
Hmm.
opportunity, to find an
Hmm.
opportunity. It's no different than finding a crack to get out of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've always looked at stuff that way. And I think that everything, everything that happens, even the good, the bad, and the ugly, you've
Hmm.
got to realize that there's some opportunity. And normally on the bad side of things, there's something better. There's
Better
going to be
coming. Yeah.
a whole new way of looking at things. And it's the
Hmm.
way you handle it and the way you step into it and what your intentions are and how you choose to move through it is really going to determine it.
Hmm.
Because, if you have a poor me mentality or I
Oh,
can't,
yeah.
or I've
Victim.
got,
Victim.
yeah, I've got to depend on everybody else. Well, you're sorry, you're shit out of luck. I
Hmm.
mean, like
Yeah.
you've gotta choose to seize the day without sounding cheesy. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You've gotta choose to get up every day and do your best and thrive and go after what you want for. I mean,
Hmm.
even if you go after it and you don't get it, you tried and
You try.
you
Yeah.
got
You,
somewhere.
yeah.
Even you may not have gotten exactly what you wanted, but you made strides and you made
Yeah.
steps forward. And I think over the years with me, like the mentality of having to know that nothing was going to be handed to me, that I
Hmm.
always was going to have to try to get what I
Hmm.
wanted.
Hmm.
And I'll probably die that way. I'll
Yeah.
probably be, I hope to be 100 years old when I want
My
to live.
grandmother lived to 100, so I
Yeah,
guess I will too.
I'm
Yeah.
going for that goal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I'll probably always try and want, thrive for more and want to get more, just out of life in general for myself, not necessarily, physical or material things, but just
Right.
to
But
always
just the
want.
joy and the
Yeah,
excitement of living. Yeah.
yeah,
In this dark world that we
hmm,
live in. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sorry, it is. It's just
it
so much
is.
around us that's so gloom and doom. And I am a stickler and I flat out tell somebody, I mean, if one conversation, and they probably don't like me when I do, but I cannot stand when someone chooses to live in their sickness or live
Yeah,
in their situation and that's all they feel that they are. And
yeah,
I'm like, you're so much more than that. But you continue to live in it and you claim it. That's where you're
yeah,
going to stay.
yes,
You're
exactly.
not going to get past that. We got to
Yeah,
get past that. So let's drop that label that you've given yourself and let's move on. And it's
yeah,
not easy. I know it's not easy. I don't say it nonchalant like that, but you're missing out on so much in
mm,
life
yes,
that's available. Like I've told many people, I could be in that room sitting and sulking and hiding and depressed with a husband that has the illness he
hmm,
has. But what is that going to do for us as a
yeah,
husband and wife team? And what is that going to do for our future? It's
right,
not going to do anything. So I have
right,
to live. I have to keep
yes.
moving forward. And I know big time that God's preparing me for what's to
Hmm.
come.
Yeah, and it's
So
okay. I
yeah.
think for women, I think we get caught up in this, like, one, doing and living for everybody else, which I
Hmm.
did, you've done, we've all done.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's okay. It's okay to want more. And
Yeah.
it doesn't make you a bad person. I don't
Nope.
care what it is. If you want more, go after
Go
it. Just
for it.
don't rely on other people, but like rely
Yeah.
on yourself and do
Yeah.
for yourself and achieve your goals. I mean,
Yeah.
go after it.
No dream's too big, and that's that
Yeah.
people are like, well, I'm too old. No, you're not.
No,
No, you're
no.
not. He
Like
uses you in so many ways
we
if
just
we
keep,
allow him.
yeah, and like I said, we just keep getting better.
Yeah. 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 Better with age. I love it.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
so what is something I love to share or ask this question towards the end here is what is something you like to collect?
Oh my gosh, I'm a weirdo. I was thinking about this
Somebody
the
say
other
that the
day.
other day.
So I love walking in the woods, and I just realized the other day I'm notorious. I have tons of antlers. Little, I was
Like
borderline. I was like,
pieces
am
of
I a
wood.
witch? Wood,
Yeah.
bones, turtle shells, rocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime there's a rattlesnake killed, I've got the
You got
rattles,
the
which is
skin or the rattles.
I've
Yeah.
got the rattles, not the skin, because those stink a little
Yeah.
bit and creep me out. I don't like them.
Yeah.
But just stuff like that, feathers, things of nature.
Do
It's
you
just
just use them all over and for like
yeah,
different things?
I've got them just sitting around through the house like little, mementos. Everybody comes. I've got
Mm-hmm.
a huge turtle shell in my office,
Ah,
and everybody just comments on it all the time. I've got a
yeah.
couple of white ones that have been bleached out, from out here,
Cool.
the little bitty ones, and
Yeah.
I mean, and I've used them for paperweights. We've used them
Right.
as sconces. I've given some away. I've used
Yeah.
antlers and stuff on
I'm sure for a
tablescapes.
wedding. Yeah. You could, all kinds
Yeah,
of ways. Yeah.
yeah. So,
That is so cool.
so yeah, just little stuff like that. Everywhere we go, I try to steal a rock, and if I find a
Well,
random
I'm
bird
telling you, in
feather,
all our travel, you know what my thing was? I would love the different moss.
yes,
And I
yeah,
would bring back section of moss from a different state and I'd put it
yeah,
in the yard around the pond area, to see how it would grow and how it would
hmm,
do. And it was so cool to do that.
yeah,
And I pick
yeah,
up rocks. I've always done that too, or a different stick and the way it just formed. And I thought,
yeah,
that's really cool and how long it's laid there, 'cause especially when you
yeah,
go out to California and the
yeah,
redwoods. Oh gosh,
yes,
I wanted
yeah.
to bring so much stuff back from there, but you
Oh, I
can't
know,
flying.
I
But
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's a cool thing.
yeah, yeah. I guess it also depends on if you want to stay in California or like be detained. What you can
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Get in
Yeah,
trouble like Hawaii too. You're like, don't be leaving with
yeah,
that sand. Oh, what? Sand or
yeah,
fruit?
yeah,
Checking your
yeah,
bags.
yeah,
Oh, I've had so much fun traveling all the states and seeing everywhere.
yeah.
Everywhere is so different. But I thank you for being on
Thank you.
today and sharing your story with us
Yeah,
and our listeners. Look forward to staying connected.
absolutely.
Definitely. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for joining my podcast today. We all have a story to share. Each story has purpose and makes an impact to you, the listener, creating a journey with passion and purpose. The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Please share with others and subscribe below.